All right, so here we go. Let's get should my cookie become a business? And isn't about the cookie business. It's really about starting any kind of business. And oftentimes, you have friends and family. It may be a cookie. It may be you're able to make chairs or do lace or jewelry, whatever it is. If you're doing it and you're doing it quite well, there's always going to be a time where somebody says, or a bunch of people will say, "Why don't you start a business?" And that's a great, it's a great sort of way to say you have such great products that maybe you should share it with other people. And the typical answer is, "Yeah, I think I'll do that." And what we want to do this afternoon is really sort of look at a couple of questions before you do run off and start your business. But I am Wahiawā. I'm with the Wahiawā Value Added Product Development Center. I am their business development coach, and we would like today. We would like you to sort of learn more about who we are. So I'm going to run a short video. When I run a video, it'll be 2 steps. So this is a short video about the Wahiawā Value Product Development Center. Again, it's a 2-step process. Yell out if you don't hear or see it.
The Wahiawā Value Development Center adds to the educational mission of community colleges. Hawaii has celebrated success in agriculture, and we want to support local agriculture by investing and growing the Made in Hawaii, Produced in Hawaii, and Processed in Hawaii brands. Resources available on site will support local entrepreneurs in improving their products and business models, reducing the need for businesses to leave Hawaii to become viable. We offer programming curtailed around value-added businesses, equipment that are unique to Hawaii and typically too expensive for small businesses. Provide consulting and know-how to help improve products, reduce cost of production, and increase shelf life, all critical to the success of local products and are now available in Central Oahu for statewide access through the community colleges. When we look at facilities that can help support scaling products, bringing new products to market, there's very few in Hawaii. Equipment like our hyperbaric chamber that will help stabilize shelf life for products. These are things that our entrepreneurs need so that their products can get into the store, so that their products can make that trip across the ocean. Keeping businesses local, supporting local agriculture, and strengthening local entrepreneurial pipelines are core to the mission of the Wahiawā Value Added Product Development Center and the community colleges. I would love for you to learn more about what we are doing here by looking at our website and joining us for a tour so that we can continue strengthening Hawaii's local economy through agriculture.
So that's a brief introduction of who we are. And so, Julia, thank you for joining us. Kelsey as well. I said, let's get started. Let's get started into why should I start a business with my cookie recipe, my banana bread recipe, or a chair that I'm building, the jewelry that I'm building? So let's take a quick talk story about how to get started. First of all, Happy New Year. Kung Hifa Joy, and this is the year of the horse, 2026. So when we talk about the year of the fire horse, I was kind of interested to see what is the characteristics of a fire horse. So I looked it up, and this is the sort of definition I came upon. It said people born under the Chinese zodiac horse sign are characterized by their energetic, independent, and freedom-loving nature. As a natural-born leader, they are highly social, adventurous, and charismatic, though often impatient and impulsive. Known for being bold and optimistic, they possess a strong desire to chase new experiences and are typically popular, stylish, and quick-witted. Some of you here this afternoon may be a fire horse, but I'd like to ask a question. Does this remind you of anyone? You think? Stuff here. Does that sort of remind you of anyone right now? Yeah. All right. Let me see. Let's go back and take a look of what it is. It's also maybe describing a budding entrepreneur with a real burning desire to start to launch a business now. And so what I want to do is say, wait, what? Before running to start a business, let's take a look at the first step signpost questions to answer. So what we're going to look at is this the right path for you? And I'm using signposts because what we want to do as we move towards the journey of starting your business, you might want to look at these signposts that will give you certain hints and guideways in which to move. So let's take a look at the first signpost. This is the most important of the signposts, which is start with why. Why do you want to start your business? This is a really, really important question. And the reason it's important is the answer will serve as the foundational premise of your company. It will be the foundation of what is called mission, vision, and values. And these three areas, the mission is why do I exist? What is my purpose? And how we do things. Vision is where do I want to go in the future with my company? And the last one, core values, says this is what we believe in terms of ethics, in terms of how we do business, how we look at our customers, how we interact with our customers. So these three items is the foundation of all businesses: their mission, why do we exist and what do we do, vision, where do we want to go, core, how do we treat our customers, how do we treat our employees, how do we treat the business. And this is providing the purpose, the central reason why your company exists and what drives your company to do what it does. And this is super important. That's why it's a first question. If you're thinking about starting a business, this is the first question you really need to consider and to answer. And typically what we find on occasion are sort of bad answers. And those are sort of like around these type of questions. I want to be my own boss. I hear that quite often. I want to be my own boss, so I want to start my business. The other one is I want to get rich quick, so I'm going to start my business. And the one that always gets me is I want to work less. And when you start your business, you'll actually be working more. I have an idea that I can't fail. And this is always one of those driving forces to start the young entrepreneurs. When I say young, it doesn't mean by age. It's just that the age of the company. I have an idea that I can't fail, so I'm going to start a business and run off to start a business. And sometimes, yeah, it does fail. Another one, I want to turn my hobby into a business. This is one that's a tug of war. And this, if you in this area, you might want to consider a hobby is something that's fun and interesting to do, and a business is not quite as hobby-like. So you might want to think about it. And the worst reason to start a business is I hate my job. So that's what I always hear. So if you're, again, looking to start your business, once you consider that first question, why do I want to start my business? Again, your answers might surprise you, but I want you to just play with that idea and make some, take a note and write it down. Leave it on the desk for a while, sort of let it, malama, and then go back and take a look at it. And if you still want to start your business, go right ahead. Let's take a look at another signpost. Let's go. The next signpost. Okay. What problem are you solving? So at the top, it says every business exists to solve a problem. This is the number one reason startups fail early. 42% of failures are due not solving a problem or solving the wrong problem. Again, this is the number one reason there's early failure in startups. They are unable to define what problem their product or their service is solving. If there's no problem to solve, there's no need to purchase a product. Again, this is number one. So if you are thinking about starting a business or you do have a business, you really need to answer this question quite specific. What problem am I solving? And this is, again, something that I want you to jot notes down, put it aside, and let it incubate for a while and come back to it and see, do you really understand the problem that your product that you want to go to market or already going to market is solving? This is the number one reason startups succeed. Successful startups have identified consumer problems that has not been solved. Now, this is a case. Not all consumers look at a problem and have the same solution. We'll cover that in the next signpost. But again, the idea is when you're looking to launch a company or you do have a company, what you really want to do is to have a clear definition of the problem your product or your service is going to solve. And it's important because if you can get that down solid, then you're able to launch a business that has some meaning in the marketplace. So again, look to see if there's a consumer problem out there that hasn't been solved, but your product or service can solve it, or there is a solution out there, but your product or service is better than what is currently in the marketplace. Again, this is the number one reason businesses succeed. I'll stop here for a quick time. Any comments or thoughts about that? No? Okay. Let me go back. The next one, I'll invest a little longer time because this is one of the areas in which a lot of budding entrepreneurs or entrepreneur people trying to enter the market really don't have a difficult time understanding. So who are you solving the problem for? It's not all problem holders are created equal, which means you may identify a problem and then there are people who see the problem, but your product or your service doesn't match how they see the problem, which means your solution will not be able to attract this customer. And so this is an important, what we call product market fit in entrepreneurship. We have to be able to make sure that our product is solving the right problem. And once we can do that, we have the target market, the people who have the problem and see the problem the way you do and see your solution the way you do, then they're going to be more likely to engage with you to purchase the product. So this is, again, why it's important to look at your product or your service that you currently are doing business with or thinking about doing business with. I want you to start to, again, jot down on a note some characteristics. Well, in a couple of slides, we'll get to how to do that. But to start to think very seriously, who are the group of people who have the problem that you think they have, and then see if the product or service that you're going to market with does match the way they see the problem. And so why is this important? If you don't find the right fit between your product and the target market, what happens is that you increase your burn rate. Burn rate is a business term, which means you are expending more money than that is coming in. And so at some point, if you are expending too much money and not getting enough money back, that burn rate will lead to early failure because you're going to run out of cash, which is the number 2 reasons startups fail. Okay, this is really important. I want you to look at, and at the bottom, if you can see it, says everyone needs my product is is the kiss of death of startups. And this is something really important. When I work with people, especially very, very young startups, and I ask the key question, who are you solving the problem for? A lot of times I get the answer, I'm solving it for everyone. And the reason that doesn't work is because if you're not speaking to anyone, you're speaking to no one. So when you look at this diagram to the left, and you see the people that are designated as red and a circle around it, you will need to be able to communicate to them directly so they respond. So if you try to respond to everyone at the top, the red, light blue, the blue, you're actually speaking to no one and they will not respond. So again, if you're thinking about what my product, who has the problem, who am I going to solve the problem for, if you say everyone, it is a kiss of death. Try to find ways to identify the group. And this next slide will help you do that. So typically what we do is we try to, again, imagine the problem we want to solve, try to imagine who has the problem. And what we want to do is we want to identify certain characteristics of those people. And we do so with 4 areas. One is called behavior. What benefits do your customers want? So if you're making chocolate chip cookies, we'll just use cookies as an example. What benefits do people? So first of all, you got to go to market with a chocolate chip cookie. First question, why do I want to start my business? You might want to say, because there is a group of people out there who want chocolate chip cookies that has big chunks of chocolate, as well as big chunks of macadamia nuts, as well as big chunks of pecan. So that's your product is not going to solve the problem, because some people would like a cookie that has big chunks of chocolate, big chunks of macadamia nuts, big chunks of pecan. So what you want to do now is you want to identify how to contact them. Who are these people? What's the customer profile? So in this case, when we look at behavior, using the chocolate chip example, you might want to say, what's the benefits do customers want? They want a cookie that has big chunks of chocolate, macadamia nuts, big chunks of pecans. And why do they want it? Because that's their favorite taste. This is how they feel satisfied. This is what makes them happy. Okay, kind of, sort of. The next question you need to ask yourself, all right, let me describe the perfect ideal customer. What age are they? What ethnic backgrounds are there? As well as what incomes are there? What kind of professions they have? One of the key questions to this is in the demographics is the age and ethnic background. Again, also you want to understand that they are able to pay for your product. So if you look at a chocolate chip cookie, big chunks of chocolate, big chunks of macadamia nuts, big chunks of pecans, you sort of have to imagine that is not the typical Oreo cookie, and you may want to ask for a price point that is above Oreo cookie. So you want to find people who see that as a value and are willing to pay for that as a value. The next area we take a look at is geographic. Where do they live? Where do they work? Where do they play? And again, the reason we look for that is because we want to find them so that we can reach them and communicate that we have this great chocolate chip cookie, big chunks of macadamias, big chunks of pecans. So if you know where they are and you can reach them, then you're able to contact them through promotions, advertising, and other mediums. The last thing I want to emphasize is what's called psychographic. What do customers think about the value? Again, if you're providing something that they are needing, the value is very high. So again, what I want you to do is to jot down on a piece of paper, what you think your ideal, whatever your product or service is. Try to imagine again, and be very, very concise about the problem you're solving. Try to imagine who is a group of people who has that problem that you want to solve. Is it an individual person? Is it a family? Is it what's their age? Are they young? Are they old? Are, are they are the occupations in white collar, blue collar trades? Where do they live? West side, north side of Hawaii? And lastly, why they value a chocolate chip cookie. In this case, why they would value your products. Again, these are questions I want you to ask yourself so that as you start to build your business, you can try to find the right people. And once you find them, you will dramatically reduce your burn rate. And that is one of the things that's so important for young companies to do, is to conserve their cash. Any questions about this area? I mean, it's kind of, it might be a little confusing, but this is a critical area. If you don't speak to the right people about your product or service, again, your burn rate, well, so Kelsey, you have a question. What's your question, Kelsey? Hi, Kelsey, you got your hands up, so a question. You're muted right now, sorry. Oh, okay. Tell you what. Okay, sorry. All right. So if not, though, if Kelsey, if you do want to come back, or any of you want to go ahead and ask a question, just yell it out when the slides are up, and I'll stop and we'll talk story about it. Let's go to the next area, which is super important. What makes you different from your competition? So this is again a critical question to ask yourself. What additional benefits does my product, your product, offer over your competition? And this is something you must know really in detail. And the reason it's important is that we call that differentiation and your competitive advantage. Competitive, if you're looking to the diagram to the left, where you have the green or olive colored inner circle and a purplish outer circle, I want to explain that a little bit. And if you have a question about it, just yell out. That middle, what we refer to as a minimal viable product, it's a product that addresses the problem you're trying to solve. It addresses it, but you may have competition that is addressing it the same way. What we want to do is we want to discover or create that outer purple ring, which means if my competitor, if I'm again, we're going back to the cookies, and you may not be a cookie baker. So I said my big chocolate chip cookie is a big chunk of chocolate, big chunks of macadamias, big chunks of pecans, and this is going to satisfy this target market. Now, you might find a competitor which offers the same thing, which is that green circle. So, wow, what can I do to get my product even better than my competition? Again, what you want to do is you want to be able to compete. So you might think of different ways in which to improve your product. We call that, just pivot. What are things that may make my product or my service slightly better than my competition? And this is where you start to create what's called your competitive advantage. And so in the cookie case that I've been using, because we're calling this should my cookie be a business, you might want to say, all right, maybe we should add some dates to it. Let's see what our idea is. So you might want to add dates to it, or you may want to just reduce something. Again, the idea is, as you're attempting to start your business and looking at your business, what you want to do is you want to find those small little benefits, I call it benefits, that customers will say, well, your cookie is better than the dad's cookie down the road. And so this is, again, a challenge for you as you map out your business, is that you need to have to take a look, go out in the marketplace and look at who you think you're competing against, and then try to see, again, how can I make my product just a little bit more different? When I was at General Electric, this is one of the famous sayings that we lived under. If you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. And that's really important for you. And so often when I'm working with people, this is what I find when we say, what's your competitive advantage? And they say, neighborhood love and passion. And that is not a competitive advantage. A competitive advantage is something that your competition will find hard to copy or may not want to copy it. So this is, again, an area for you to think through. Make sure you have what you believe to be a differentiation from your competition and what your competitive advantage is. Any questions about that area? Okay, so let's go ahead, and we have just about 20 minutes left, and I have a little bit more things to say. And at the end, we'll try to save some time so we can actually get you to ask some questions. So the other question I really want you to take a look at is, what is your plan for your business? And the idea is, do you have a scalable business model and plan? Before you start your business, you need to sort of map out all the components of your business, map out how this business is actually going to address the marketplace, address the customers. You need an area, a plan that will help you actually build your business. See, what happens is a plan is not the business. A plan is an idea of what the business should like. When you enter the marketplace, that plan will be your guidepost. You follow the plan, and if you find that your plan doesn't work, then you can pivot, make changes. But if you don't have any plan, then whatever you're going to encounter, there is not a guidepost to say you should keep on the same path, or maybe we should change a little bit, we should make adjustments. And this is the 5th top reasons startup fail, and fail early. They have a flawed business plan and a model, or worse, no plan at all. So this is a famous signpost, and you see it's sort of worn and beaten because it's a really old saying. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So again, before you even enter the marketplace, have a good, solid plan. And if you don't have a plan, learn to make one. And for startups, and this is on the start. So a lot of people think, when I start my business, I should write a business plan. The business plan, which is the traditional way of thinking how to start a business, was really designed to run a business. But for all the years and years and years, that was used to start a business. That particular model of writing a lengthy and complicated business plan and then going to the marketplace with it really had some success rate, but its failure rate was relatively high. And the reason it was relatively high is because it didn't address what problem am I solving. And so when you look at the traditional business plan, it is designed to run a business. So it's been recognized that the lean startup methodology is a superior new way to start minimizing early failure. This is a critical part. The lean startup methodology reduces the risk of early failure because it does do certain things that will help you find the right product, the right customers, also help you find the right differentiation, which becomes your competitive advantage. So the lean startup model was created by author now Eric Ries and joined by Steve Blank and others to create this entire model. And it has to do with what we call business model design. I'm not going to go each one, but it helps you build a model of your business. It helps you to define your customers and be able to track your customers and communicate customers so they respond. And the last one is to build your product in incremental so that you don't waste your time building a really expensive product just to find out that people didn't want it. So this, I guess, going to give you a brief way to look at it. If you're thinking about our business plan, you can do this traditional business plan, but you should also consider the lean startup methodology. And this presentation did not start off as a commercial, but we are at the Wahiawā Value Added Product Development Center is about to launch what we call the Kino-only Entrepreneurship Program. It's designed to start your business. Again, this is not just exclusively for agricultural product, but for other businesses as well. And this particular session of the Kino-only Entrepreneurship program starts on May 12th to May 7th. If you're interested, to the right is a QR code to register or just find out more about it. So this particular course does use the lean methodology, again, with the help of Professor Steve Blank from Stanford University. Again, if you're interested in it, take a camera, take a click on that QR code, and then I'll give you like 10 seconds to do so. Anybody have any questions before I get to the next slide? Just yell out. Oh, okay. All right. I think
there's questions in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. There's a question from Wendy Carvalho. How many competitors do you compare your products to? For example, 3 companies, 5 companies?
Okay. So Wendy, great question. So how do you compete? So what you want to do is you want to understand the problem and your solution. And what you're going to do is you're going to try to find competitors that is really close to what you have. It could be 5, could be 10. Usually, in my experience, when you've defined your solution, your problem, you define your product as your solution, you'll find that maybe there's 3 of them that are close to you, sometimes 5, but really don't spread yourself thin. What you want to do is you want to hone in to the competitors closest to what you have as a product. And then you take a hard look at it, because if you take a look at too much, you'll get confused. So again, I would suggest looking at the top 3 that's closest to what you want to propose. And if you want to go further out, go to 5. But really, that's the amount that I want you to take a look at when you're trying to find your competitive advantage. Did that help you there, Wendy? Just yell out if it did. Okay. All right. Thanks for asking the question. Let's go back. Thanks, Naomi, for reading the chat. All right. Let's go back. Where are we? So when I pop up is other questions, I won't invest more time on it because I want to get to, in our remaining minutes that we have, I want to get to the more, the question, the signpost that refers to entrepreneur, you yourself. So these are other signposts that you, in future workshops, will talk about. Who are your competitors? How much research have you done? How much do you know about the industry, which is critical? How much do you know about the market that you're existing? It's critical. Lastly, the big burrito for most startup really is, how will you fund your business? And again, these are going to be topics for future workshops that we'll have. Now I want to get, in the remaining minutes that we have, which is about 18 minutes or so, I want to get into the entrepreneur, you, and what signpost is really important for you as the entrepreneur. So second, look at the first one. The first signpost is, what are you willing to give up? This is something really critical. What are you willing to give up to start your business? And this is an important concept that I want you to really consider, is that when you chase an opportunity, you will have to, since you don't have endless time, endless energy, endless resource, there are limited resources at your disposal, time and effort as well. For every opportunity you pursue, you will give up another opportunity and its value. This is called the opportunity cost. And opportunity cost is really when you pursue one path, you don't have the resources to pursue another path, so you'll have to give up. So this is a key decision that you need to make as an entrepreneur. What am I willing to give up to start my business? Examples are you willing to give up the security of your regular job or portions of it? So many entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs starting a business, they want to start a business, but they want to hang on to the full-time job. That is fine in the early stages of entrepreneurship. Again, I don't blame anyone for not giving up their full-time job as you're starting off your business. But at some point, you'll have to decide, using this first example, is, do I want to give it up and really concentrate on my business? Typical tug of war decisions that entrepreneurs make. Next one, are you willing to give up your nights and weekends or portions of it? And this is, again, an area that I want you to consider. When you start a business, it does have to do with working on your current available times. This could be giving up your nights, could be your weekends, or portions of it. So you might want to ask yourself, how much do I want to give up at nights? Because I may want to work on my product at nights, or I want to sell my products on the weekends, with so many budding entrepreneurs and current entrepreneurs do at these pop-up shops and fairs. Again, they give up nights and weekends. And the last one, again, this is not an extensive list that you should consider, but just examples. Are you willing to risk your savings to start it? Again, it's so important for you to answer this question. Again, I want you to take a piece of paper, jot it down, and really take a look of the opportunity cost. What am I willing to give up to start my business? The next one is super, super important. How prepared are you emotionally? What happens is that when your friends and family say, you got a great product, you got a great cookie, you should start a business. Yeah, the first validation, I should go ahead and start my business because everybody's saying I am going to be successful at it. It's a great product. And so I want you to sort of look forward in the future, is that it is just one portion of the emotional roller coaster of starting a business. Passion and excitement at the very start, yeah. But then these are following other emotions that I've seen with entrepreneurs. Budding entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, they run the gamut because these feelings will come at you in rapid succession. The up and down, and that's the reason I chose a picture of the roller coaster to the left, is because these feelings will come up and down roller coaster, and they come at blinding speeds. So I want you to really consider, how emotionally prepared am I? Passion and excitement, fear or failure. The other one is really interesting, the fear of success. What if I get too successful? What am I going to do? Anxiety of the unknown, which is really typical for everyone. And then followed by curiosity. Can I do it? What will happen? You'll be overwhelmed at time, and you will feel burned out at time, which means that you'll be frustrated, and a lot of times that frustration will lead you to become impatient. You start to self-doubt and feel guilty about what you've done. And this is, again, when you're seeing on your list, is very typical emotions that entrepreneurs go through. The ones that haven't succeeded as well as those who are very successful. Now, I'm sure that Mark Zuckerberg, who you might think is very successful, runs through this on a quite frequent basis, especially things like self-doubt and guilt, loneliness and isolation. An entrepreneur at given times of your career, you will find that you are the only person in the world. And I don't know if I want to start. Again, this is just a typical emotion. But the most important one to go ahead and really think about is, how resilient am I? Can I bounce back? Is that part of who I am? So again, write down on a piece of paper, decide, are you ready for these type of emotional roller coasters? These are the last signposts as we end our discussion. So we just has about 10 minutes left. The level, how much risk are you willing to take? Your risk tolerance. So you have to answer this by yourself. And again, it's a self-examination, self-reflection. Entrepreneurs usually fall into one of three categories. The conservative, they like stability, they avoid high debt, and they focus on incremental growth, not really exponential growth, but we'll take it steady. Then there's a moderate risk tolerance, and you start to make these decisions. There's decisions that say weighs really heavy. So what's the risk? What's the return? I don't want to be too one-sided. So you're going to take a long time to make this very calculated decision. The last one is aggressive. And so these are really aggressive people willing to assume significant potential risk, volatile risk for high reward. So it's one of those high risk, high reward type of people. And so what you want to do is you want to sort of think, who of these three am I? Or could be a combination. And jot that down on a piece of paper. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of the signposts is two things for you to consider. Indicators of low and high tolerance. So you might say, you might not be sure, but let's give you two descriptions of somebody who has low tolerance, which means they're high stress levels, need a steady salary. They're afraid of failure and prefer a safe business model. And again, when you start to work in your business model, there's ways to build it. You might want to build it safely. You might want to stay moderate. You might build it aggressively. It depends on who you are. Next one is high tolerance. Now, I have a high tolerance for risk. It's defined by comfort with high uncertainty. I like uncertainty. I thrive on uncertainty. I like to chase things down. Or again, you want to start a business, we won't have money for 3-4 months. That's fine. We'll just go ahead because when the business thrives, I'll be a millionaire. And that type of thinking, and sometimes it could be unhealthy because you're really on the high edge of something. So again, you decide what tolerance level that you would like to work on when you start or currently in your business. This is the last signpost. I got a couple of more slides I want to communicate with you in the remaining 5 odd minutes. Any questions right now? Any questions right now? Before I wrap up, I have a couple of more slides to share with you. If not, let me go to the wrap up. And sure, the next slide is we are at the Wahiawā Value-Added Product Development Center conducting a yearly survey, and you may apply to one of these surveys. May apply to one of you or two of you. Two of the surveys. So the first one is an annual survey for anyone who is engaged with the Wahiawā Product Development Center, but you are not a user, which means you're not using the facility or the Aina to Makiki program. So if you are one of those, click on the QR code and take that survey. If you are currently a kitchen user at the Wahiawā Center, click on the mustard colored one and then take that survey. And the last one, if you are an Aina to Makiki participant or past participant, click on that QR code and take our survey. It's super important to us because the reason we want to know what you think is we can make improvements. We can make improvements to what we're offering you, and so that we're constantly finding a way to give you better and better services or products. And again, this is the competitive advantage we're talking about. So again, if you're one of these, please click on those QR codes and take the survey. It's super important to us. I'm going to leave that for like 2 more seconds. All right. So also, all of you have the opportunity to have a one-on-one complimentary consultation with me in person on Zoom. So again, if you found things that you want to talk about on a consultation basis, please, what you want to do is you want to take the picture of that QR code that leads you to a link in which you can make a direct reservation. Reservation with to sit down and have a talk started with you. Again, if you want to have a personal consultation, I'm really happy to do so. I'm always happy to talk to people who will think about starting a business. Click on the QR code and it'll lead you to a site in which you can make a personal appointment with me. A couple more things. What I'd like to do is, if you haven't been to the center, please come and visit us. You can schedule a tour by going to our website. If you have been at the center, I want you to come back. There's always new things for us to consider, for you to find new things that we're always doing. So we have multiple new items for you to take a look at or engage with at the center. So please, if you haven't been at the center, come to the center. If you have been in the center, come back. We want you to see what's been happening. And we're just with about 2 minutes left. So happy New Year for Year of the Horse, and mahalo. Thank you for investing your time during your lunch hour. Are there any final questions or comments? Yolanda, I didn't see you earlier. Thanks for joining us. Anyone has any questions or comments right now? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So again, thank you for investing your time with me. And again, come visit with us in person or online for our next workshop. Thank you, everyone. I always enjoy talking to all of you. We'll see you soon. Bye.